This video is story problems, quadratic story problems. This is one type of quadratic story problems. It's dealing with rectangles and area. All right. Area of rectangle is 108. So this is 108, you know. So some of my tips for story problems are there's a lot of words. And I just try and read the words and draw as kind of doodle or draw pictures of things that are going on. Well, I know there's a rectangle, so I drew a rectangle. And then there's always a basic equation. So either your width is basic or your length is basic. In this problem, your width is basic. The length of a rectangle is 3 centimeters more than the width. So I know the width is just plain W. And then the length, which is usually the longer side of a rectangle, is W plus 3. The area, so area is like in here, if I like painted this or did tile or whatever, area is filling this in, right, is 108. That's what we decided, 108. The word is means equals. Don't forget that. Okay. So I know there's some brainiacs out there that can just multiply, and they go, oh, I know, 12 times 9 is 108. They're 3 numbers apart. Perfect. Those are my answers. I'm done. Except for you guys in my class, you get to do the algebra. Because the algebra is how, you know, when the numbers are harder than these, the algebra is the way you have to solve it. You have to either do quadratic formula or factor harder things. Okay, so find the length and the width of each rectangle. So you need another formula for area, length times width. So length times width is 108. All right, so then you solve this guy. You multiply it. You move 108 over. So 108's over here, but then I have to put this problem in standard form. And I move it over. So then I factor it. The factors of 108 are 12 and 9. And in this case, I make the 9 be negative. So it's W plus 12 and W minus 9. Those are the factors. You set factors equal to 0. So you get 9 and negative 12. However, then you have to think about this. Oh, well, 9 looks good. 9 works, 9, and then you plug 9 in here, 9 plus 3, and you get 12. However, you need to remember, in this kind of a story problem, negative 12 doesn't work because you can't have negative 12 length. It's a distance. So this is an answer to the problem, but in the story problem, it doesn't make sense. So it's called a extraneous root. So you just kick this one out. Bye-bye. Okay, so here's some other types of story problems. These are when you have consecutive numbers. Anytime you have consecutive numbers, if they're just regular consecutive numbers, you use these equations. X, that's your basic one, and x plus 1 would be the next number. If the problem says it's even consecutive or odd consecutive, even and odd are 2 numbers apart. So like 3, 5, 7, those are 2 numbers apart. So this is your basic, and for any even or odd problem, you just add 2 to it. So this is how you always start when you're doing an even or odd problem. You need to remember some vocabulary. Product means the answer to a multiplication problem. Sum is to addition problem. Twice means times it by 2. Is means equals. All right. Here's the next problem. This is number 9 on the homework. The product of 2 consecutive integers is 56. So if you know your multiplication tables, you know that 7 times 8 is 56. Consecutive means in a row. So what you need to do, I always start with my basic equations. X and x plus 1. Like, these are just plain old consecutive. I'll write that in a brighter color for you. Okay, so you start here. X and x plus 1. Okay, so I know those are how I do consecutive number problems. So then the product means multiply. So here's where I multiply. X times x plus 1 equals 56. Then I solve it. So I do distributive property. X squared plus x. I move 56 over, so it's negative 56. I factor plus 8 minus 7. I said factor is equal to 0, so I get 7 and negative 8. Now because I'm just talking about integers, integers can be negative. So I take 7 and I plug it in. So 7 is the x, and 7 plus 1. So 7 plus 1 would give me 8. So those are one of the answers. And the other one is negative 8. Oh, okay. So if I have negative 8, and then I have negative 8 plus 1, I get negative 7. So these are the other two answers, negative 8 and negative 7. This is the next problem I did. It's number 11. The product of 2 consecutive odd integers is. So when you're doing odd, remember back, I told you this. For even and odd, you got to do this stuff. Okay, so this is how I start. X and x plus 2. All right, then I read this again. I keep reading it again and again and again and keep finding information. The product of 2 consecutive odd, and product is multiply, so I multiply that. Is means equals. Twice their sum. So their sum, if I add these up, x plus 2, I get 2x plus 2. That's their sum. So I'm going to do twice their sum, less than 1. So less than 1. Then I work it all out, move it all over, I factor, I get negative 1. If I plug negative 1 here for x, I get negative 1, and I do negative 1 plus 2 is 1. So my answer's and I get positive 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. Answers. Then I did number 15. 2 consecutive integers. So they're just in a row consecutive, one after the other. So 1 and then add 1, and that's how you get the next one, consecutive integers. So you start with that. The product means multiply, so I multiply, of 2 consecutive integers is means equals, is 3 less than 3 times their sum. Okay. So I added them together. This was their sum right here. This was their sum. Well, that's kind of a bad color, huh? Okay, how about I make it a better color? Oh, that's pretty. Okay, here we go. Maybe not. This is their sum. Okay. So I do 3 times their sum. I have to do distributive property there. And I'm doing, is 3 less than 3 times their sum. So this is 3 less than, I do that. This is the algebra. I factor, I set factors equal to 0, I get my 2 answers. Here they are. I get 0, and I do 0 plus 1 is 1. So those are answers, and these are answers. And you can check them out. You read it again, check them out. The product. This is how I checked 5 and 6 right here. This is my check for 5 and 6 being the problems. The product of 2 consecutive integers. Product means I multiply them. So if I multiply them, I get 30. Well, that is going to be 3 less than 3 times their sum. So if I add them together, I get 11. 11 times 3 is 33. See? 30 is 3 less than 33. Check. That's it.